great honor of introducing Garrett Talcott, a fellow Washington State educator who has inspired educators nationwide with how he has transformed his kindergarten classroom this year. Garrett, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, everyone. Well, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I am excited to be here, get to learn and collaborate with each and every one of you, and I think we can all agree the past year and a half has been absolutely insane. But let's start off with kind of why. We all have a why of why we became a teacher. Growing up, I was bullied and teased. I was overweight and had very few friends, and school was hard for me. And teachers were the ones that supported me and believed in me and didn't allow me to give up. And so that's kind of what triggered me to want to become a teacher and kind of give back and be that light for a student and hopefully have them never experience bullying. This is my 9th year teaching. I have taught developmental preschool, kindergarten, 4th grade, a life skills cooking class, and high school and middle school math class. So I've taught from the bottom to the top, and my definite passion is kindergarten. Now, my first year, however, I thought couldn't get any more challenging, and my first year was teaching developmental preschool in the morning, walking over to the middle school. Thank goodness they were next door to each other and connected. I taught a life skills cooking class and then 2 math title classes, and had 2 principals, 2 staff meetings, and it was a roller coaster ride. Then we fast forward, all of us, and we're in this pandemic teaching and taking the magic that we do in our schools and in our classrooms and taking it remote. And how are we gonna do that? I don't know about you, but when I think of the magic of kindergarten and the magic of any role that you all have within the schools, doing that in a completely different way, I was like, how is this gonna work? Is this even possible? And I had so many different feelings. My team was amazing, supported me through, but it comes down to the students and making sure that we're having fun. When students are having fun and they're learning, everything else just falls into place. Some of the things that I had to do was teach them to read, write, be mathematicians and scientists, and do it all through a screen. You're seeing us all through a screen right now. This is kind of our classroom for those that are remote and those that are back in person. You know, you have your classroom, but there's so many rules that you're in and kind of constraints, but it's using what we have. And I think the big thing that we can realize now is that teaching is changing. We have this opportunity to try new things out, and that's one thing that's kind of re-energized me as a teacher, to kind of not look as the classroom as my classroom at my school, or in this case, you guys are seeing my classroom right now as my kitchen, but really the world is our classroom. Some of the things that I've had to do to kind of interact with my students and build connections is be a little crazy and wild, get messy and have fun. If you've seen some of the videos, and I'll show you a little bit, some of them a little bit later, if it means having a dance party because my students are getting a little screen fatigue, it may mean that I'm gonna put on an Elf on the Shelf costume and just teach writing and reading that way, just to have a little bit more pizzazz and fun. And it really keeps the students wanting to come back for more. They never know what to expect. And many of these students that I'm serving remotely, this is kind of their engagement right now. They may not be getting out in the community, you know? And for those that are in person, they are able to have those connections, but of course with different rules and standards that are kind of set in place that make it a little awkward and all that. But it's about having fun. We all know that with teachers, there's so much stuff, and with any staff role at a school, there's so much stuff constantly putting on our shoulders, all the time. I look at my 9 years, and it's been every year, it feels like a new curriculum or new standards are changed. But it comes down to just having fun and kind of looking at it with a new lens. One of the things that I've taken on this year and had a lot of fun with is doing virtual field trips. I've gone to the zoo where we were learning about animal habitats, and I was like, well, hey, we're remote. The students and I may not be able to go together. Doesn't mean I can't take them there through Teams. And it's being creative with using the Wi-Fi at the zoo, calling ahead, making sure that we're using our community resources and connections. And then if the Wi-Fi doesn't work, trying out your hotspot. We recently went back to the zoo. We were doing information writing, and the students learned and studied a specific dinosaur, and then we went and saw those dinosaurs. They had some animatronic dinosaurs, and it's really about how we can take our world and our learning and make it fun and stick with our learners. And so that's been a roller coaster ride. And you may see later that I took our students on a roller coaster ride in my own kitchen to get them up and moving with that brain break, rather than just sitting in our screens here and all that. For in-person, you know that you've had to be creative with making learning fun, getting those dance breaks up. Maybe you're doing drumming on your desk. Maybe you're incorporating a little bit of nature into it. For people that are working in our schools, you've been amazing at coming up with creative ways to do your jobs and do them at whole new levels. And I think we all know that it truly takes a village to make this all happen. We can't do this alone. It's about coming together and sharing our resources and our talents, and not doing this alone, but doing this all as one. When we look at this, I've had the support of my partner, who's made some great TikTok videos out there, and she wanted to saw what all teachers are doing. Every single teacher should be going viral at this time, and staff member, because we're all going above and beyond and stepping out. Think about Gumby, the character. We're all getting stretched so much every single direction, and to the point where it can't stretch any further, but we are asked to stretch further. And that is happening right now. And my partner has made these videos and put them out there, and people are seeing teachers out there, and every single teacher and staff member should be going viral, because you guys are all amazing, amazing individuals. And together we are stronger. When we think about these students, the big thing that I think, whether in person or not, it is about the students and keeping them engaged and having fun. And that's where, like I said, that learning truly, really sticks. And really being creative and thinking, okay, what I've done in the past, how can I elevate my learning and my teaching so that it makes learning fun for me and my students? And that's why I really challenge us to look at that whole world is our classroom. Use those resources. And so, like I said, I've done virtual field trip to the zoo. We've gone to the top of the Space Needle and looked at shapes that are out there with all the building structure, especially our 3D shapes out there, making those connections. But you may ask, okay, well, that's great. We're almost done to the end of the school year. Okay, it's June, fall's coming. Most likely we'll all be back in the classroom. Is it over? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. What I would anticipate myself doing is still having all these connections, whether it be connections that I've established, or I reach out with my friends and my colleagues to share those resources from each other and bringing them back into the classroom, whether that be through our amazing usage of technology that we've had, that we can bring in now, because we're now, whether we were or weren't before, we are definitely becoming technology experts and being open to new learning for sure. Whether we wanted to or haven't, it's part of us right now. So keeping those connections. So whether that be bringing a guide into your classroom, bringing them in via video calls, connecting with families, and even think about it this way. Okay, maybe you have kids. Maybe you go to the zoo on the weekend. Yes, I'm not saying like working on the weekend and all that, have that balance and all that, but let's say you go with your kids and there's a really cool exhibit, or you have this opportunity where let's just say it's the penguins. That was a fun part at the zoo. Videotape yourself and bring that back to the classroom. Bring it with you, you know, because if there's one thing I've known is that students, they love the people they connect with at the schools. That's who they want to learn from. You can put up a video of someone else talking, but when it's you, the teacher or the staff member at that school that's sharing their passion and learning, that's where they're like, I know that person, I want to hear from them, I want to do that. And that's each and every one of you. So even if you're doing something fun, or maybe this summer you're going to go on some well-deserved rest time and maybe get on a little vacation or enjoy some you time, and you have a fun moment, capture it and bring it back. Those are all teachable moments that we can bring in and just kind of be creative on that. With all this, bandwidth is so important to consider. Like this year, like I said, it has been a roller coaster ride. I've cried, I've laughed, I've felt like every emotion. I felt stressed like I was the Bellagio fountain. squirting out cortisol of just stress of like, how is this all gonna work? What am I gonna do? How am I gonna hit this deadline? And might I add, if I didn't mention earlier, I have 28 kindergartners online that I'm teaching. So we all have big numbers for sure and different challenges. But it comes down to knowing who you are, but also taking that risk and getting out of that comfort zone, getting messy and having fun. Because no matter what, the students come to see you and learn with you. And there's gonna be good days and there's gonna be maybe some rocky days. But the students love you. They love you and they care for you. When I was at the zoo, for example, there were some scary animatronic dinosaurs. And the students were so worried about me. They were like, run, Mr. Talcott. They were so connected to the learning and thinking it was so real. And they were like, run, be safe, Mr. Talcott, be safe. They care about us, everyone. They care about you. So know that. But be mindful of that bandwidth. Maybe this week's not the week, but next week you want to just dip your toes into it and have fun with it. I want to show you something. One of our last field trips that we went on was to a recording studio. And my partner and I had this vision of creating a class song. I think we can all agree that we felt so many different emotions and we chose to put those emotions into words, into a class song. And the class and I went to a recording studio, saw the magic that happens when you think about that. You have career that they're being exposed to. There's song for writing and reading. There's different ways of getting the arts in there. So it's oozing with content. It is not just a field trip to the recording studio. It is so much more. And that's just kind of how we look at it, having a little bit of optimism with our teaching. And so took the students there and we made a class song. And I want each of you to hear it. And through it, you will see some videos of kind of what I've done this remote year and what we've all done, which is truly magic, each and every one of you. So let's do this. Alrighty, and that was our class family song called We Got This, and that will come out on Friday on all streaming platforms. And truly, everyone, I look at that was my class family, but you guys are my school family, each and every one of you. And truly, we got this. We do. And it really comes down to we need each other more than ever right now. So get out there, try something new, get messy, and remember the world is our classroom. And big virtual hug to each and every one of you. Thank you all so, so much.
So I just want to say thank you, Garrett, from the bottom of all of our hearts, and we feel like we're your family as well. And we can see the passion that you've just shared with us through that. And I'm hoping everybody realizes that we just got a pre-video before it even drops live Friday, so I'm ecstatic about that. It's going to go viral, I think. But before we move on to a little bit of the next portion, we do have a few minutes. If anybody wants to ask a question or two in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and ask a question, do that as well to Garrett. So if anybody has a question, we have a few minutes before we go to the next piece. So we have a comment in the chat that they watched your Zoo video when you were reading it up for King 5 and inspired them to do science experiments live.
That's awesome. Yes.
Garrett, I wanted to ask if what your parents' reaction has been to the parents of the students in your class. Have you had any interesting responses to the field trips and all the creative stuff?
You know, the fun thing about remote learning and teaching in a pandemic is there's kind of, we definitely follow, of course, our school guidelines, but this is all new. And so the families are learning with me and the students, but a big shout out to those families because I couldn't do this alone, especially in that remote world. It truly takes a team effort of those families coming together, the students and teachers and staff working together to make this all happen. It can't be done alone. So big hugs to those families.
Okay, so Trent has asked in the chat, where do you get your ideas as to where to take your students to next?
Great question. It's really about kind of just reaching out to what's around you and kind of thinking about what you're typically teaching in your classroom and what kind of community connections they may be. Whether they be close, that you can go visit them. Like I'm living and teaching in Seattle right now, so the zoo's like 10 minutes away from me, where when I would be at my school teaching, that's a 45-minute. So kind of being mindful of what's around you and reaching out to those resources. People want to help out and definitely help out teachers and staff. And so if they're further away, we definitely are pretty good at video calls now. So whether that be connecting with another class in Hawaii and sharing experiences that way, really that whole world is our classroom. So, and where do I get the ideas from to go next? It's kind of just whatever kind of happens. You know, sometimes it's triggered by weather, different people, collaboration, you know, with different staff members, talking with family. Just, we all know that when you're kind of going to bed at night and an idea pops into your brain, it just happens. So, and then it kind of just goes about reaching out. I always recommend calling ahead, setting up those connections, making sure, of course, that there's really good Wi-Fi also.
That just reminds me, this is a true showing of project-based learning at early elementary levels, which is a lot of people have struggled thinking about processing it. You're embodying it, so that's amazing. Another question we have is, how much studio time was needed for that song?
Well, it was small groups of about 20 minutes, and there was the chorus, and then each student had their own little spotlight line, and it was all kind of like repeat after me punchline. So we got each other, they'd say it back, we got each other, and that was all individually done. So it was quite a process, but small groups, of course, are a lot better, so there's not as much waiting around time, and then just the magic, but that was all virtually done through a Teams call. That entire song was made through a Teams call, which it's pretty miraculous what we can do with technology.
Adam is asking, what tools did you use to create your on-location videos, hardware or software?
So the videos, my number one focus, and this is also very important that you all know this, is my number one focus is on the students. So I'm not making the videos. That is my amazing support partner, Michael, who is currently on a sabbatical, and he was hearing in our 500 square foot condo here, kindergarten all day. And at first he was like, oh my goodness, how is this gonna work? With having kindergarten, ABC, songs, and I'm also kind of loud. And so he was hearing this and he was like, oh my goodness, what all teachers are doing now, these messages, these need to be given back to adults. They need to hear these again. And so he started filming those out, made a couple of videos, went out there, and the community liked it and shared a positive light on teachers. And so what he's using is, TikTok is the program that he puts it out on. He's using his iPhone to film it, and then he uses Adobe to be able to process those videos. So Adobe Premiere on that, so yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. So we think we have time for one more question. Does anybody have another question? And then we can... So I have one then. What has been your favorite location that you've taken your students to?
They're all so special, and there's so many different memories, but I do love the zoo. I love seeing animals, and I think that just pulls at your heartstrings, and you never know what they're gonna do. And I love going to the zoo because we go to the zoo to learn, and I learned a few things about penguins, so that was always fun.
Well, with that, Garrett, we once again want to just thank you for being here with us today, and thank you for being a part of our RIN. And if anybody wants to give kudos in the chat, please do. You're showing exactly what we were hoping to show for learning environments today, and it's really about building those relationships with students as well as colleagues, which we're all here today learning from each other. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have fun, everyone, and I love each and every one of you. And again, it takes each and every one of us coming together. So share love on your colleagues and staff members, love on each other, and have fun with learning. Thanks, everyone. Bye.